Hey, we're
What's
here.
up?
Yeah, welcome to the Painfully Honest, whatever this is. Uh, oh man, so here we are. It's back on Tuesday night. Tried the daily live thing, and it was fun. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. But
You're saying it is past tense, so it's no more?
well, I can't decide yet. I got to figure out what to do because like the
You were
channel.
just talking about it like it was dead.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm upset because the channel kind of tanked. It
Oh,
just
well.
it's just like all of a sudden, like none of my edited videos were getting any views. So I was just like, I gotta
I told
stop.
you that's what happened to me when I started live streaming. It tanked the channel.
And like I was actually on a meeting with the Restream people here. Thank you to Restream for sponsoring these live streams. Here these well, we're into month 2 of the Restream sponsorship, and yeah, they're keeping the lights on here at Painfully Honest Tech Central. and and so we were in a meeting today, and I asked them, I was like, so what's the story? Because some people say it doesn't matter, some people say it does, and I everybody in that call had some kind of different experience with live streams. So I do have another live streaming channel. In fact, we're streaming on that channel right now. Painfully Honest Live is the name of that channel. So I think eventually what I'm going to do is maybe do like one live stream on this channel every week or so and do the rest over there. Um, Another thing about the 5 days a week streaming uh, was, you'd think it's like an hour and a half maybe, and you'd think that wouldn't be that bad, but holy crap, I was
That's a
exhausted.
lot.
Yeah, I after 5 days, I was like, I can't. I'm so tired, and I don't get enough sleep either. So anyway, we got a guest here with us tonight. I don't know if you guys know, my good friend Steve Freeman's here. Steve, say hello.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be
So
here. We've been meaning to
Steve,
do this for a while.
yeah, I know. Steve and I have known each other for a little bit now, and yeah, Steve's a songwriter, producer. Now he's out in LA, moving and shaking in the film industry. He's got that Empire Podcast Network going that hosts the Painfully Honest podcast with yours truly, Jason T. Lewis. Got his own podcast, Steve Freeman Podcast, doing really well. Did I see you like top 50 somewhere or
Yeah,
something?
dude, it has completely taken over my life. And yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to flex or anything, but it's just the truth. I mean, we got a little over 1 million listeners a month now.
Nice.
But I'll tell you, here's the thing. And this is what's weird about YouTube. What I've learned through this process is that, and I would love to hear from people in the comments on this, but there is a distinctive difference between people who will listen to podcasts and people who will watch podcasts. Because I'll throw up an episode of the podcast, like, and across Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, all that stuff. Throw up an episode, 150, 200,000 downloads. Put up the video version of it, 300 views.
Right.
And they are two totally different audiences. And finally, people on my YouTube channel were like, dude, please stop uploading podcast episodes. That's not what we're here for. Make it its own channel. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, now those are getting more views on the new channel than they used to get on my main channel. I can't. You have talked about it. I can't figure it out for the life of me.
Man, I can't. I can't figure out YouTube at all. Like sometimes it's like, oh, this makes sense. This is easy. Look, I make the video, then people go watch it, and then sometimes you fall into a deep dark hole and you don't know why. so yeah, but it's interesting. Like Chris says, he's a watcher of podcasts.
Hey, Andrew,
I found that when I do a live stream, or when we used to do the Painfully Honest Tech podcast, people would sort of like come on and especially like listen while they're doing other stuff or whatever, and it wasn't like a big deal. And the same thing with the daily podcast that I was doing. Some people were, because it's hard to sit there for an hour or so and just like look at somebody.
Okay. Well, Okay, I have a question here though. This is great because this is like R&D for me. But Reed Tethered Texas, I listen to podcasts when I'm driving or doing something else. If I have the ability to sit down and watch, I prefer to watch an actual video than a podcast.
Right.
I hear this a lot. Well, I would rather listen than watch.
Right.
Okay. I get that. But why can't you listen to the video?
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? Because I get that all the time. I'd rather listen than watch. And it's like, okay, we'll pop up the video. You don't have to watch.
Yeah.
Or is that a mental subliminal thing where if I'm watching a video platform, I have to be watching?
Yeah, I think it might be more of a YouTube specific thing,
You're like
because
a YouTube user.
I know, like, only since I've started watching YouTube on my television will I watch a YouTube video that's longer than like 15 minutes. And so when I see people making like 20 and 30-minute long YouTube videos, I'm just like, I can't just sit at my computer and watch that. But I think YouTube, like, there's learned behaviors on the platform just like anything else. And so Alan says that maybe it's because it takes up more data. I hadn't even thought of that. That's possible. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that, well, I've noticed one thing since I've been doing the Painfully Honest podcast, and I'm not doing it on video, I'm just recording it. I've noticed that my brain works differently. Like the way that I put the thoughts together just somehow makes it all work differently. So I don't know. It's really interesting. But the podcast thing is definitely a different beast. Like I watch true crime YouTube videos and I listen to true crime podcasts. The true crime podcasts, if I'm honest, the true crime podcasts are much more meaty pieces of media, whereas the true crime YouTube videos are kind of surface level, and usually it's like, not always, but younger people, and
they don't have the gear or the equipment or the experience to put together a really high quality visual presentation.
Yeah, whereas like you'd think maybe it's because people don't have to worry about the video part when they do a podcast. They just have to worry about the audio and the content. Right. And so maybe that's why. But yeah, Alejandro says that he prefers watching streams. And I think that the YouTube, I don't know why people, it used to be like, now it's the YouTube meta. I think the YouTube meta is shifting I think it's shifting toward live streams, because now, before COVID, the ability was there, people were doing it, but it was still kind of niche. But now, like, everybody and their brother has had to figure out how to deal with looking and talking to the screen and all that kind of stuff. And so I feel like it's become more mainstream. And I think that YouTube edited videos are going to be, I mean, they have their place, but they feel more restrictive than a live stream.
Well, I agree 100,000% with you. And I think what it is it's the evolution of social media. So, everybody prefers live. Everybody loves when people do Instagram lives or when people do TikTok lives. People love the live interaction. And I think at some point, YouTube is going to become, the ground for independent filmmakers that want to make make content that gets noticed, that is that. But I do agree with you. I think the future of YouTube is people wanting to connect like this. They want to see it as it's happening.
Right.
Tell me about a video you're going to put up next Thursday. I don't know what the hell I'm going to have going on next Thursday. Right. But if I get the notification that you're live, I want to know what you're doing. I want to be involved right now. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is, like, as I was picking, like, so every day with the daily thing, I would pick topics that might have otherwise been videos that I would have made during the day. And so 2 or 3 times a week, I would grab some of those things, cut them out of the live stream, put them up as videos. And so you would think like, oh, but maybe it's because like my hardcore fans are watching the live stream. so they
Mm.
don't need to see like the replay clip. But for some reason, like the replay stuff, the clips don't get as much traction as like an edited video where I would have probably said the same thing.
Well,
So
I think part of the problem too, you and I have talked about this before, is if this is the case and this is what they want people to do, YouTube is going to have to stop penalizing people's channels for live streaming.
yeah,
I mean, because that's what it feels like they do. It feels like your channel's rocking and rolling right along, and then you do a live stream. God forbid you do one every week for the next, and it's like it tanks your channel. They've got to find a way to either decide that it's going to be okay and we're not going to have any distinguishing factors, or they're going to have to get out of the way altogether.
right.
I think the people who have figured it out are people like Steven Crowder and people like Ben Shapiro. Now, I'm not saying I agree with what they believe, but the way they do it, where they go live every morning from whatever, 8 to 10, 8 to
Right.
9:30, right? And then immediately after they get off, it's uploaded as a podcast audio form, and then the
Right.
video is uploaded to their, behind the paywall.
Right.
They'll put clips out. To me, that's brilliant. I think that's the way it really should go. And the way Ben Shapiro does it, I think, is great, because he'll come back later. He'll throw up 30 minutes, of
Right.
the video. And then it'll smoke out, and it'll go, if you want to watch the rest of this video, go to whatever their deal is, or you can continue listening.
Oh yeah.
To me, that's brilliant.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, for to do something that's got that many moving pieces, you kind of have to have a team, at least 2 or 3 other
Totally.
people who are like doing that kind of stuff. Because I was watching or listening to a podcast from Tim Schmoyer, who's a video guru guy, and he had a guy on who does financial stuff, and so the financial thing is big now, and this guy has just worked his way into doing like a daily live stream, and he's it's during the day, the markets are open, he's got stuff to talk about, but then they also do a la carte videos, they do all kinds of different stuff, but he's built a team of like, I think he said like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah.
And so like I would love to do that kind of stuff, and it's the thing is, it's
Me
not
too,
that
but
hard.
I have a guitar, motorcycle, and car buying habit.
Yeah, it's it could be worse, but yeah,
True.
at the end of the day, like I think doing like making everything a podcast, and then if you do a live stream, make it a podcast. If you do a live stream, either start a clips channel or throw up clips or something like that. But podcast just brought up an interesting point right here, where he says, podcasts are automatic listens / downloads for everybody who subscribes. I mean, you get credit for that no matter what. But YouTube, every time you put out a video, people have to actively click on it, and you got to get that click every time. So it's not as guaranteed, and that does make the dynamic of the two things really difficult. So like YouTube is always a challenge, and podcasts, I mean, you grow slowly because the audience isn't as big, but you grow. People, I think I've been like, stuff you missed in history class, I've probably been subscribed to that podcast for like 10 plus years. I don't know when the last time I listened to it was.
Right.
But
they get
I'm
download every time they upload one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think too, at some point, that sponsorships, advertising, and monetization has a little to do with it. Difference between audio and YouTube. And that's always bugged me and bothered me, that people have had issues with that. I know you've dealt with that in the past on your YouTube channel, and that people do not like hearing advertising. They don't like hearing the sponsorships. They don't like any of that stuff. And I think that sometimes mentally people think, well, if I watch a video, I'm probably less likely to hear an endorsement or a sponsorship on a regular video than if I listen to a podcast.
Right.
Although now it's commonplace in both.
Yeah. I think it's probably pretty well accepted in podcasts now. And like, if you don't want to hear the Hello Fresh, you've got the 30-second, skip forward button, and you can do that. I mean, if you've already listened to a Hello Fresh ad 100 times, then that one more impression is not going to persuade you. But
What gets me though is I was listening to one the other day, and this blew me away. And I thought, okay, this is point number one, that advertisers are not listening to the places that they're advertising. Because on this podcast, it was like, I think the sponsor was Squarespace, and right. The podcaster was like, today's show brought to you by Squarespace. If you want to skip this ad, hit the button 3 times.
Yeah, exactly.
No, if I did,
yeah,
it's just I couldn't believe they did that. But I thought, okay, you won't be making money off your podcast very long.
Yeah, and unless you're like a Joe Rogan, like Retethered Tech mentions Joe Rogan up here. I think Joe Rogan could do anything. He could say, Squarespace is sponsoring the podcast, but I'm not going to tell you about him. Go to squarespace.com to find out more. And they'd be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Fine.
Exactly. I have some very unpopular opinions when it comes to Joe Rogan. I love him to death. I've met him several times. But that to me, in my is cases of just a lot of times the first guy ends up being the guy.
Right.
He's been there longer than, like, to me, Adam Carolla's podcast is boring. Or I would rather, a friend of mine was a guest a couple of weeks ago, and I don't even know why they booked him as a guest. All Adam did was talk over him, and then they got on to some other, and it was I couldn't even listen to it. I like Joe a lot personally. I love him to death. But when I listen to what some people from a production element and production point,
right,
he's got the clout, so he gets great guests and interesting guests. But to me, it's not like, oh my God, I missed Joe Rogan podcast today, I got to go listen. I realize I'm in the extreme minority there. But the only time I find myself going and listening is, like someone said in the comments just a minute ago, was I'll see a clip on YouTube, and that will make me want to go listen to it.
Yeah.
But it's not destination listening for me.
See, Joe Rogan, the interesting thing about Joe Rogan's podcast now is that it's really a morning talk radio show.
Yeah.
In podcast form. It's 3 hours long, and they bring on guests and they talk about stuff, and it works. Like, maybe you're right. Partially being the first guy in the space certainly helps.
Because I mean, when you look at from the outside, think of this: the guy just got paid. What was it? $100 million, and this is the guy that hosted Fear Factor. This is the one, and I know he does all the MMA stuff, but nobody knows him from that. Everybody knows him as the guy that hosted Fear Factor, and it's like, it's just amazing to me.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, like, I can say that I was aware of Joe Rogan, like when he was just a comedian, and then he had some acting stuff, and the Fear Factor thing happened, and I kind of knew that he had gotten into the MMA thing, but I don't really follow it closely, so I didn't really know. But when I started paying attention to him was the podcast thing, because
absolutely,
I mean, for somebody who, I mean, let's be honest, Joe Rogan was at best a second tier comedian, and like,
I would call him, because he's never made me laugh, but
but the thing that I think works really well for him is that he is not afraid to talk about stuff, and he's not afraid to throw his opinion out there. And a lot of times that opinion might not really jive with, like, the moment. And he's not afraid to bring people who might stir things up a little bit into his space.
He's anti-PC for sure.
Yeah. But he doesn't see, that's the thing. Like, there are a lot of YouTubers who, like, they talk about woke culture and stuff like that in media, like in films and stuff. And they are so mad about it that it turns me off. It's like, okay, so you're a 45-year-old guy, like, foaming at the mouth because somebody, like, has a different opinion about character development than you. and and you know, I would listen. I will listen to somebody's like really metered, thoughtful opinion about something like that, and I'll listen to their guests talk about controversial topics, as long as they're not like, well, Fear Factor was like way over the top, right? Everything on Fear Factor was like to the nth degree, and this is much more chill.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I'll listen to people talk about their opinions and be fine with it. But whenever it raises to like 11, I just it turns me off. It turns me off. And
You
but
know,
I look at Joe Rogan and I'm like, he found the niche, that place where he could sort of exist in a space that nobody else had gotten into yet. And Mark Maron does the same thing, but Mark Maron hasn't had, I mean, he's very successful,
right.
but he hasn't really blown up like Rogan. I mean, he got Obama on the show like years
Right.
ago, but yeah,
Well,
it's
you talking about opinions. One of the things that I've noticed the other day recently is us talking about the difference in podcast and YouTube. Here's what I find. People listen to podcasts to agree with me. They evidently watch my YouTube videos to disagree with me.
Yeah.
That to me seems to be one of the big differences. People listen to my podcast to learn things, to try to implement them into their businesses, into their careers. And people literally, I have more haters on YouTube than I have fans. I'm pretty sure I'm going to hit 10,000 this week. And I'm almost positive that 9,700 of those people are there just to disagree with every single thing that I post.
Yeah, for the hate watch. I feel the same. I've had the same kind of experience. Like the dynamic with YouTube is very different. I mean, so the thing about your podcast is that you're talking about music business stuff for the most part, and like development of like a creative creative business life, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about that kind of stuff, but you've got the cred behind you to kind of like back it up. And YouTube has always been sort of like an open space for anybody.
Okay, good. You're going to need to explain this to me. Break this down to me, Wizard, because whether I'm doing a podcast or I'm doing a YouTube video, I still have the same credit. I still have the same credibility, but it means nothing to people on YouTube because the 31-year-old guy living in his parents' basement in a pair of underwear that haven't been washed in years, watching YouTube videos, thinks he knows more than I do and is convinced that he knows more than I do and has no problem whatsoever telling me that I'm wrong.
Well, I liken
and then get shocked when he gets the response from me that they get in the comment section.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The thing about YouTube, and I think it's kind of got like that punk rock mentality, that indie vibe.
Right.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like the punk rock scene, the indie rock scene that I was in when I was like a teenager and in college, where it's like you mistrust everything that's establishment. You like you're doing it yourself and you're figuring it out on your way. And there are a lot of people, like YouTube has been, look at one of the most successful people on YouTube right now. I don't think anybody's going to agree. It doesn't matter what format, MKBHD.
Sure.
And here's a guy that started at 12 in his parents' dining room, just talking about a laptop that he bought to use in 7th grade. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got like what, almost probably 15 million. I haven't looked recently, but 15 million subscribers or something like that. And he's got all the cool stuff, and he uses the $60,000 cameras but the thing is, like, people trust him and follow him because he's been there with them, and maybe they've grown up with him. I mean, PewDiePie is another example, although I think PewDiePie is a little bit more savvy than people think he is.
Agreed.
He started out just doing silly videos, and kind of like thumbing his nose at the establishment. And so there's that culture in YouTube. And there's not, hey, my mom is here.
Well, hey, Mom.
There's my mom. Hi, Mom. What time is it in West Virginia? It's only 8:30. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that I think that YouTube sometimes, it depends. YouTube loves the underdog story. This is something that I noticed, and I was talking to Alt Dad Tech about this on Twitter just yesterday. When I was coming up toward 100,000 subscribers, I felt like I had like a groundswell of support. Like lots of people were like, "Yeah, man, you're gonna do this. This is awesome." And then when I crossed over and I got into a larger audience of people who maybe weren't there at that time, like the level of scrutiny got way different. And so those people, the new people that came in who just got there at that moment, were scrutinizing me in a much different way than the people who had been there from earlier on.
Which, see,
And
that to me, when you say that, that automatically makes me think that there is something at YouTube going, all right, we see you're just getting started and you can do your little tech thing. All right, well, you're putting out high quality. Let's put him in front of some people that we really think are going to dig what he's doing. Then when it takes off, then somebody flips the switch and go, now let's introduce him to YouTube. Now let's introduce him to everybody else that's going to kick him in the nuts every single time he uploads a video. That almost seems intentional.
well, and I've noticed that there will be every few months there'll be a new person from whatever genre I've been watching that will like suddenly be in my feed every day. And I do think that there are certain triggers in the algorithm and stuff like that do start to put people in. There are tiers, like if you bump up a tier, then suddenly you're in front of a lot more people than you were previously. And yeah, I think it does have that effect though, because once you go into that place where nobody's seen you before, and you're the brand new guy that just popped up in their feed, and they're kind of like, they're sort of like, oh, we fresh meat. And,
right.
But it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody, and sometimes I'm just like, I do think though that if you're somebody who wants to challenge people in whatever way that might be, it can be a tough crucible for people to go through. Because I mean, I know like there was a lot of time where I was like, am I really like, it can get pretty heavy. It can get pretty heavy pretty quick. But I mean, that's also part of the deal. Like you get to a certain point and you're like, well, I never thought I'd get here. And I think a lot of people, like, I know I was always like, well, once I get to X point, then everything will be golden. Like I'll have hit that benchmark and everything will be fine. It's never fine, people. It's never fine.
Look, I've told you, I mean, look, I've been in the music business at the highest level for 20 something years. So I have a pretty thick skin. Nothing bothers me. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
And then I did that one video. And I swear to God, I have never felt the amount of hate in my entire life. I mean, and it totally consumed me for a good 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's 7,000 comments or something, 10,000 comments on that video. And they are 98.9% completely negative.
Yeah.
And mean, Of course, I love controversy, so I, probably 3,500 of those comments are me commenting back.
Yeah.
I can't believe you would talk to your viewers that way, and I'm like, okay, I know you're new to the channel. But it does. It gets to you. It really gets to you.
Yeah. When I see, and that's why
I quit uploading. If I'm being real honest, I've never said that before. That is why, if you go, I just uploaded a video last week, but if you don't count podcast episodes, that video was the last video video that I uploaded because I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know,
And the thing is, like, so just for you guys who aren't familiar with this, so Steve had made a video about like what you really need in order to like record at home, and have professional results was kind of the, like I think it was what, $3,500.
$3,400, and it was based on the exact same gear that Billie Eilish and her brother used to produce the album that won 5 Grammys. It's the exact same list of gear.
Yeah.
That's
So he put that video up, and he recommended the gear that was there. And now this is going to sound familiar to you folks who like the tech. Another guy who does like audio related videos saw the video, put up his response to it, and was just like, I've got 5 PV rack mixers and whatever it was, and I make great records, and totally missing the point. That's
great
the
records nobody's ever heard.
Yeah. It's like the thing is like, and this is a YouTube thing as well. Like usually the nuance of any conversation is lost. So like this guy was sort of making a straw man argument with you as like the bad guy, but he wasn't really arguing against what you were saying, because I don't think anybody could say like the gear that you were recommending wasn't good gear that wouldn't get you good results. He was arguing that you could get results from anything.
Well, and my biggest problem with that, I've never had that happen before. I got to be honest with you. When I found out somebody made a reaction video, I'm like, I fucking made it. That was me. You've made it if somebody makes a reaction. So, but I've never had that before. My issue with it was I don't care if people disagree with me. Disagree with me all day long. You're not going to change my mind, but disagree with me all day long. What my issue is that he was saying things in his video that I didn't say.
Right.
And the way YouTube works is maybe 10% of those people will go watch video he's referencing to actually see what was said, but they don't. And I don't like when people that he did that he was saying words, saying that I said things that I just honestly didn't. Of course, the comment section on that video is full of people saying, I can't believe you said this. And I'm like, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Point to the minute, second in the video where I said it, because it's not there. You're not going to find it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had my own moments with that, like made a video that said I wasn't going to order the new iPhone, which everybody took as like, I'm not going to buy the new iPhone. When the iPhone came out and I bought it, a lot of the, so that was the moment that I realized that the space between you and like the majority of people that watch what you do is really wide, And
okay, but here's what I don't understand. Explain this to me, or people in the comments explain this to me. Why do they care? See, to me, when I see Jason put up a video that says, I'm not buying the new iPhone, I'm like, okay, interesting. I'm going to watch because I want to know why he's not buying the new iPhone, right? Then if I see, oh, Jason did end up buying the new iPhone, I care more about what changed your mind than I do, oh, you son of a bitch said you weren't going to buy it.
Yeah.
Why do people care?
I think, and maybe that's probably not unique to smartphones, but there are definitely camps, and there are definitely people that want to be in one camp or the other. And so I think that particular video, it went on and got like 1.3 million views. And so that was probably like 1,290,000 people's introduction to me. Right. And so they see that and they're like, oh, this guy's like the new anti-Apple champion or something along those lines. And then they're like, but they've not seen like the whole sort of progression of videos. And so they see that and they think this, and then, a couple of weeks later, they see the other video and they feel betrayed or something. And that was a huge learning experience for me. For one thing, like I would never say like I didn't want to that it wasn't a great experience to have a video that got over 1 million views, right? But it opened up my channel and the growth pattern and everything like that, it just opened it up to a whole different level of stuff that I, being a guy who like just a couple of months before had like 40,000 subscribers, I was like, oh, and I just hadn't grown along with that amount of growth. So I was like, just sort of thrown into this thing where I didn't have a full understanding of like where I was.
I
It's
feel
like,
like the dangerous part of this, though, I know for me, and I think it is for you too. Once I got past what happened to me, although it did affect me in some way that I didn't upload another video until last week, when I look at it and you see the ramifications and the results of what happens because of those type of videos, I honestly sit around and go, okay, what videos can I make that just really piss people off? And you don't want
yeah,
to be that guy, but obviously that's what, I mean, YouTube literally had to email me 5 times up to that when that video came out to make sure they had the right address, because it's like I've been monetized for 7 years at, $3, $4 here. And all of a sudden this guy does this reaction video.
yeah,
My video takes off and it's like, oh, we owe Steve Freeman some money now. And for me, I'm like, man, you put in all this time trying to think this content out and think about the viewers and think about adding something to the conversation and making it valuable for people that are kind enough to spend their time watching your
right.
content. You think all of that out, and then you think people don't give a damn really about it when you do that. But you say something controversial or even what people consider to be controversial for one reason or the other, and all of a sudden that's when things blow up. And so
Yeah.
it does make it difficult to sit down and plan out and go, I want to make real content. Why make real content? Real content doesn't pay. It doesn't grow the channel. It doesn't do anything. But when you do something like that, why not just do that purposefully more often?
And honestly, I would say that for me, like I was chasing, it's like I always make these stupid sports analogies, but it's like a baseball player who like goes on gets a couple of home runs and suddenly he's like, he wants to crank it out of the park every time.
Mm,
That's kind of what it was like for me, where I felt like I had to perform at a certain level, which meant, well, if I was getting tons of views by like inciting people's ire toward me or toward Apple or whatever it was, but it worked against me because like I'm also that guy who'll be like, well, I mean, I'm willing to change my mind. Samsung comes out with a good product, I'll say so.
right.
But but I did chase home runs for like maybe a year and a half, and it ultimately hurt the channel because I wasn't making those videos that sit there and maybe they don't set the world on fire, but they add to your catalog, they add to the conversation, they add to all that stuff, right? And I sort
And
of
those
found
are the
it.
videos we're here to make,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah, because like for me, I want to, my instinct is to be a teacher, like, and because I have been, and because I've I just have done a lot of things and learned a lot of stuff, and like sort of putting it out there. So when I found myself being the guy who was just trying to get a reaction out of people, I mean, it's painfully honest tech. I mean, I'm not throwing softballs either, but it's like
Yeah.
I just was. It's been hard to find like the balance between the two things. But I think like Podcastage is a great example. He's here in the chat. Um, I admire the way that he's run his channel because like he's just been like slow and steady wins the race. I put out these videos on microphones and other audio gear, and I really do a good job of like laying it out and giving people examples and explaining this and explaining that. I mean, there's not too many people on YouTube who talk about audio gear, like prosumer or professional audio gear, who actually say anything about the quality or give any kind of examples or anything like that. And so his videos maybe have like he's just hit 250,000 subs.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, so it's like that's the flip side. You just like you're very metered and like what your goal is, and you work toward that goal, like and so that I think for me it has to be somewhere in between. You know what? You know what I'm saying? It's like I'd rather be somewhere in between, where sometimes I can incite a bunch of people to have a conversation, but other times the people who want to like know what it is that I'm talking about, who they show up and it's for them. You
Right.
know,
Well, I
but
often find that people, especially people in the comment section on those type of videos, they always want to cite the exception and never the rule.
right, right,
And that's what makes it difficult,
yeah,
is because we're trying to create content in the majority,
yeah,
and a lot of times it's the minority that ends up having the major voice. And I think it's that whole thing, it's bad news travels fast, good news doesn't travel at all,
right,
and people would rather be negative than they had, positive, because it's like I have struggled with it. I've thought, look, I can upset someone without even having to think about it. So
yeah,
I could create that kind of content, but what value is that? I don't want to create that kind of value and purposefully put a target on my back for that reason, I guess.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'll say this for myself, and I think other people, like, I started out with the Can You Trust series, which to me, I wasn't trying to like play gotcha or burn anybody or be negative. I just was like, I'm going to review these people who review tech, right?
Mhm.
And do it hopefully in a way that was fair and balanced, and not the Fox News fair and balanced, but but it's
Sure.
and so I started out with that, and but it got really stressful. Like every time I was going to put out a Can You Trust episode, even though I knew myself what I was doing, I would get like super anxiety. And then,
Imagine.
same thing with like kind of the more dramatic videos that I would do. I would just get real anxious. And a lot of it was that sort of like, I'm putting myself in the position to do this. And after a while, and I think you can look at other people who do like kind of drama stuff. I mean, I don't know how Keemstar is still alive, because he's done it for years and years and years and years. But it it wears you down when you're like in the drama mill for even if it's, I mean, tech drama is what it is, but it's not like the people who have drama channels and really just that's all they do. I just got emotionally drained from it, and then I said to myself, like, this is not the whole reason that I'm here. I love to have
Mm.
these boisterous conversations, but I don't want to just make content for like half the people to go, yeah, and the other half to go, fuck you. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, not only that, but even in stepping into that realm, it's like, in no offense against anybody that may be watching, but I also have no interest in creating content for 10 to 13-year-olds. It's like I could care less what's going on with Jake Paul or KSI. I don't even know. By the way, don't even know who the fuck these people are. But I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I don't want to become a part of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? If I don't know the players in that game, I certainly don't want to, here lately it's been interesting, and I'll say this, I think I'm right, but all this stuff going on with Jeffree Star and with Shane Dawson and what's the other ones,
Yeah.
the makeup kid, James Charles.
Yeah.
I should know, my daughter spends thousands of dollars on his freaking makeup every time it comes out. But I think all that's planned. You'll never get me to think that any of that it actually happened. I think it is all planned because they start to sink a little bit. Their views start going down and they're not. And then all of a sudden there's a controversy.
Yeah.
And it always seems to happen that there's a controversy between the same people who are in the same space doing the same thing.
Right.
They never have controversies with other people, normal people, regular people, or people off of YouTube. It's always inner contra. And I think it's planned to keep people tuned in that we're maybe dwindling a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know, like, just from the experience that I had, that you feel like, so you feel like you're chasing like one story to the next, one drama to the next. Like, okay, like, so what's the big drama now? How can I capitalize on it? And so I I I wouldn't doubt that there's some, even if it's subconscious, some understanding among people who do get a lot of views from dramatic content, that they understand that they need that drama in order to drive the views.
Mm.
And I mean, there have been stories that James Charles and the woman that he had an argument with a year or so ago, whatever that was, that was a stage thing. I've heard that. I don't how true it is. I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, YouTube is one of those weird things. So like Chris here says, so would you rather have a video that blows up or one that gradually clocks up the views? You know, the videos that clock up the views are the ones that actually make you money. I mean, time
Amen.
over time over time.
Even money off of YouTube.
Yeah,
Like
and
not even
it's not even like money. Money isn't the thing. They're the ones that that sustain you. They're the ballast that sort of holds you in the water, right? Whereas the videos that blow up, they're like very disruptive. And it could be very disruptive in a good way. It helps you grow. It like throws you into a different thing. But at the same time, it's super disruptive, and it can take you a lot of time to adjust to whatever the new reality is for you. So, like a perfect example for me is, last year was my worst year in terms of growth on YouTube ever. And I mean, I don't know what. I'm not going to say COVID. I'm not going to say this, that. I know that like content wise, I was trying to figure things out, et cetera, et cetera. But I put out a gaming headset video on a SteelSeries wireless headset. And that was, I think, like February or March of last year. And the first 6 weeks, I think it got like 2 or 3,000 views. And then COVID happened, and people were looking for headsets, gaming chairs, desks, like desk stuff, trying to figure out audio stuff. I know podcasts has like had a lot of new viewers on his channel because they needed to figure out what microphones to buy and that kind of thing. That video for that headset has, the line was like this, and then it just went up, and it's still still to this day, like per 28 days, I think it gets at least 10,000 views.
wow.
And so like, if you can get, I mean, if you can get a video like that, so there's hero videos, those are the ones that blow up. Then there's help videos, those are kind of like the how-to videos, and then there's like the core content videos, which for my channel would be reviews. Like if I wanted to say reviews, how-tos, and like commentary, right? So the reviews are sort of the core content that gets views over and over and over again. I've got a SteelSeries headset video, or not, a Turtle Beach headset that I reviewed, I think in 2017, and it almost has 1 million views. But it's got almost 1 million views over the course of 4 or 5 years, right? So it's a little bit of both, but I don't think you see that until you like get a little bit a ways down the line. Like you have a little bit of like the breakout and a little bit of the slow and steady wins the race,
Right.
to see like, okay, now I see like what the balance, like if there's a balance to be struck, I kind of need to have a little bit of both. Like I need to you want people to still be excited about watching your content, but you also want to serve those people who are coming to your channel because you're an authority at something, right?
Well,
So
yeah, I struggle constantly between if I want to make a video, do I make a video that I think people want to see, or do I make a video about something I want to say?
right, right,
And I don't like making, to me, very rarely do those things ever marry up.
right.
And that's why I don't know if, thinking about long-term videos or things that rack up views over time and clock up views, in my experience, the views that come later that have been clocked up for a while, like since I haven't been uploading, a lot of my older videos are now getting discovered and people are watching. Those tend to be more of the viewer I want.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so to me, they are more valuable. And those people, I think, last longer. You know, when you get something that hits and it's right away, you're going to get that bump. And then there's nothing worse than going really high and then falling off the cliff.
Right. Yeah.
I would rather walk steadily up the mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it can be really beneficial in some ways, but as with everything in life, there's like a good and a bad. You know, it's a it was really exciting, and it just, you know, the million plus view video. I was like, what? I never imagined in all the time that I spent like making these YouTube videos that anything like that would ever happen. And you know, as somebody who, you know, didn't have 100,000 subs at that time, like I was just like, this is crazy. And it was a nice and it was a really fun ride, and I wouldn't trade it for that. But at the same time, like, you know, it's like I think there are people who look at my channel now and say, "What happened to this guy? Why is he like not having, you know, hundreds of thousands of views on every video?" And then that kind of gets into your head, like, "Yeah, why am I not having hundreds of thousands of views on every video?"
No,
And then
you
you
got to
look at
love
it,
that comment, man. You should have more subscribers than you have. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, well, tell everybody about it. You know, I mean, it's like I chose to have a small channel.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no such thing as an overnight success. I mean, I put up YouTube videos. I think I started in like 2014, and that video happened in, I mean, in a relatively short period of time, considering, you know, it was 2018. But in the ensuing 2.5 years since then, like, it's come back down to like a more normal pace. It's a really weird thing. Like, YouTube has to be YouTube's really hard. And I think any media that gets like an immediate reaction, like, you put out a piece of media, people watch it or listen to it or whatever, or don't. You know,
Mm,
and to me, this was a problem that I had with music. Was you play a show and nobody comes, like, that's, you know, you get that feedback right away, right?
right.
Or you know, you send out a bunch of demos or something like that, and you don't get any calls back. That's, you know, or you play somebody a song and they're not into it, immediate feedback.
Mm,
Writing a book is way different, because it took me 8 years to finish my first novel. And in those 8 years, I got really used to the fact that writing a book and publishing a book are two different things,
mm,
right?
yep.
And so writing a book is like years and years of day after day after day putting your butt in a seat and spending some time with it, right?
Yep.
And but publishing a book is a totally different thing. Like, once you publish the book, you don't have any control over people's reaction to it anymore, and you've lived with it for so long that it's like your kid. You're like, okay, go to college. I'm done with you, you know.
Yep.
But YouTube is one of those immediate response kind of things, and it can really play havoc with your head as a creative person. And because it's YouTube is also a slow and steady wins the race kind of media, where it's like, the only thing that you can control with YouTube is putting out videos,
Right.
right? And so as long as you're putting out videos, you're at least on the plus side of the ledger, right? But it's so hard to just be like, okay, that's my job. Putting out videos is my job. When you can go 30 minutes after you publish your video, you can go to YouTube Creator Studio and be like, oh, this is 9 out of 10, man. I really fucked that up. You
Mm,
know, you know, because it shows you 30 minutes in, like, where it sits within the last 10 videos that you made. And that information can be totally poisonous. It can be just absolutely poisonous. Um, so that's the hard thing about YouTube. And with podcasting, it's different too, because there's no direct feedback loop for
uh,
podcasting, you
no.
know? And so there's no comment section. I mean, if you have a website, then you can have a comment section there, but, you know,
Yeah.
people in
I was about to say, I recently started, I took everything away from email. So I don't do email anymore with the list, and I'm doing texting now.
yeah,
So
yeah,
now I get texts If it goes live on Monday and Friday at 6:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
6:35, I'm getting text from people in my community. And
That's cool.
so that I do like, because it is that engagement. It is that direct feedback.
Yeah.
You know, that's one thing I do like about it. But again, people are not shy. You know, hey, I didn't like that you said this, or I didn't like that you did this, or you talked about this, or, you know, so you get to hear. And I don't mind that. I don't mind criticism. I don't accept it. I mean, you can be critical of me all day long. I don't give a shit one way or the other.
Right.
You know, but I do like that. And I think I missed that a little bit on YouTube, because it's you don't get that immediate, and you want it. You've put so much into it. You've put so much into that video, and it's, come on, somebody give me some positive feedback. I mean, we're creatives. That's what we live for. You know, I didn't pick up a guitar when I was 12 because I was passionate about music.
Yeah.
Picked up a guitar because I looked at the guys that were playing guitar going, she's hot. You know, we want that immediate reaction.
Yeah.
And we have to get it. You know, it's like a needle to a vein.
And it's really hard too. Like Podcasters says, you know, the ranking system that YouTube gives you in that creator studio is rough, because it's like, you know, I've seen videos like turn it around and do better, but 9 times out of 10, it's like, okay, this video didn't perform. And the thing is, like, being somebody who was used to being in a band and used to like being collaborative about how I did stuff. And I always had feedback from people, you know, whether I was working in an office doing a creative thing, or I was in a band doing a creative thing, or whatever it was, there was always a feedback loop in there that kind of helped do some of the work, you know. But with YouTube, usually it's like it's you, and you make the video, and, you know, it's like just yesterday I was like, man, so I just put up this new setup and did some different things with lighting and camera angle and stuff, and I was like, well, gee, I wish there was somebody I could just say, hey, what did you think of that, like, compared to like the other angle, blah blah blah. And then sometimes I put that stuff into Twitter, or I put it on my channel page, my community tab, and I feel like, you know, I feel like a lot of people aren't, they're not there to have that conversation. Like, it's a different relationship. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I'll tell you something I noticed the other day, and this is, I'll never do it, but I would love to get to the bottom of this. I was realizing something about myself the other day, since I started watching more YouTube on the TV and less on, you know, a mobile device or a laptop. And that is that I realized I was subscribed to, I don't know, maybe 80, 90 channels, maybe.
Right.
But every day when I go and I click and I go down to the subscriptions, so that it shows me every video from everybody I'm subscribed to, it's the same 10, 15 creators. It's the same 10, 15 channels. And that's why I keep coming back to YouTube, because when you put out a video, for me, I mean, like I said, I only got 10,000 subscribers. But when I put out a video, what I'm starting to wonder is YouTube notifying everybody that doesn't watch the videos, like subscribe to the channel and doesn't watch regularly, and not informing people that actually do engage with the channel? Because I found out that's what I'm doing. I'm like, wait a minute, how am I subscribed to all of these different people, but it's the same people on my subscriber feed all the time, every day. I know who's going to be there and who's not. And it's like, and I do not get the email. I do not get the even though I've got notifications on and all of that. For half the people that I do watch, I don't get the notification that they've uploaded. I don't know they've got a new video until I turn on the TV and I click down to subscriptions, and there's the day's video.
Yeah. Yeah. And this has been something that people have talked about a lot. And I guess there is a method to the madness of how YouTube does it. Supposedly, and I don't even know if this is true. If you click subscribe and you click all notifications, then you will always get a notification that that person has done whatever they've done on YouTube.
You're supposed to.
Now, if you've just clicked notifications and it's like select whatever, there's some more verbiage to it. YouTube will send out your video to a subset of your subscribers and a subset of people who, watch videos like what you've just put out. And then they'll sort of triage what that did in the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is. And then from there, they make the algorithm makes other decisions about where it goes.
The algorithm's an idiot.
And it's frustrating. Like it would,
if it's going to base on who they sit, if it's going to base the performance of how a video may or may not perform, and it's the algorithm's choice, then the algorithm should be pushing that video, any new video out, to the people that engage with the channel the most. And I don't think they are. I think they're pushing it out first, that sample group you're talking about, to people that are not engaged. And so therefore it's not going to do well in the first few hours, 24, whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you even have a shot at it?
Well, I mean, there's so many things like click-through ratio, the click-through rate of based on your thumbnail and like how long they watch. So there's all like, it all adds up to something. And you can like look at your analytics and say, okay, analytics are showing me that my click-through rate is not, as good right now as it was then. So maybe then I need to like work on my thumbnails, or, my thumbnails aren't working anymore. I need to switch it up a little bit or something like that. I mean,
but pause right there. Shouldn't that only matter when it comes to your subscribers?
See, that's the thing.
Because when you're talking about thumbnail and you're trying to get somebody's then you're talking about a subset of people that are not subscribed to your channel, because the people that are subscribed to your channel would watch because they got the notification, or they noticed that you uploaded a new video, even if they just log in and happen to see, oh, Steve or Jason uploaded a new video. The thumbnail would only matter to people that are not familiar with you. I have never not clicked on a video from somebody that I subscribe to because of what the thumbnail looked like.
It's interesting because the way that I watch YouTube on TV and the way that I watch on computer, mobile devices, stuff like that. So when you have a quote unquote business account, right? So my Painfully Honest Tech is a business YouTube account, but it also has like a non-related, like sort of just like a regular channel that doesn't have any videos, doesn't have any. So I have like Painfully Honest Tech, and it'll show like, 196,000 subscribers. And then there'll be this other one that's also Painfully Honest Tech, but it's just sitting there. So when I watch YouTube on TV, I sign in with that one. And I'm subscribed I'm subscribed to some of the same people on both accounts. But like there's one guy that I watch every video that he puts out, and I don't know why.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yes.
You're the one.
This guy who does this, it's called That Chapter, and it's one of those true crime channels. And he's this Irish guy, and he just makes these videos, and he does a pretty good job, and they're entertaining and stuff. But for some reason, like he puts out a video on Tuesday and Friday, and every time I turn on the TV and I turn on YouTube, YouTube knows that I will watch his video no matter what. And every Tuesday and every Friday, that video is top left corner on my homepage every single time.
See, that's interesting because I have a channel that I watch religiously every day. And even if they don't have a new video, I will go back and watch one from the past. And I always have to go search for it. Now, it's in my subscription feed, but I have to scroll past the shit that I just sometimes watch.
Yeah.
To get to that. And it's like, if they uploaded a video at 5:30 this morning and it's 5:30 at night, if YouTube is as smart as they say they are, they should know that should be top left for me when I log on, that I'm going to watch it no matter what. And what I really don't understand is why this could be so simple. It's have a notification button. That's it. Why do we need to have all of this algorithm thing? When you upload a video, notify everybody that subscribes to the channel. To me, if they subscribe to the channel, that is them telling you that they want to be notified when you have new content.
Right.
If they don't, then they shouldn't subscribe.
I think podcast has a couple of interesting points here. First off, I think there's some truth to this. The algorithm is pushing to people who don't engage as much as like a stress test to see like, how viable the video might be to these people who have engaged, but maybe aren't subscribed or aren't like clicking the bell. Then they push it for.
Okay. But if we're following what YouTube and all the gurus tell us we're supposed to do, and we're supposed to have a niche channel, and we're supposed to be dialed into our content, then what difference does it make? Those people would be paying attention to my video because they know within some realm, like your channel, it's going to be something having to do with the tech news of the day or something. I guess what I'm asking is to podcasters, and he may know, why? Why? Yeah. Why do we need to test videos? Why can't it simply be a platform where creators create and they upload them? People that have chosen to subscribe to the channel get shoved those videos. And for everybody else, it can be use an algorithm for search-based stuff. If somebody types in music business, I might pop up because I have popular videos on that subject. That I understand. This whole, the first 24 hours and we're going to test it against this. Why test it? Just shove it out to my fucking audience and get out of the way.
I think part of it is advertising. They want to have some sort of something that they can say to advertisers is like, here's how we choose which videos we put your ads on. We have this whole algorithm that stress tests the videos to find the ones that are the strongest, that will end up getting the most views, et cetera, et cetera. And so we can within reason guarantee you X for your dollar. I think it has everything to do with advertising. And
I will tell you this, I did a test last week on last 2 weeks episodes. Since I launched the podcast YouTube channel, the first 4 episodes, I think it was 4 that I put up. Don't kill me here, but they technically include a paid endorsement, a paid sponsor that's on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
I did not click the button that this video includes a paid sponsorship. Those videos, those views for that being a brand new channel with 600, 700 subscribers did very well. 300, 400, 600, 700 views, right?
Right.
So last week I said, okay, damn it, I'm going to do the right thing. Clicked that it did include a paid sponsorship. Views tanked on those 2 videos. And both of those videos are highly titled, tagged properly. And those views are the 2 lowest views on the entire channel, the previous 2 episodes, which, by the way, are 2 of the largest audio version podcasts that we've had in several months.
Yeah. Well, I think podcasters, I think here is kind of echoing what I said about advertising, is that YouTube is here to make money, and so like they're not necessarily here to distribute our stuff so much as like distribute the stuff that they think is going to make them the most money based on their algorithm, right?
I agree, but they have nothing if they don't have us. If there aren't creators creating content, they have nothing to advertise on.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I would love it if everybody who clicked that subscribe button knew that I was putting out video, because I've had people message me after seeing a video pop up for them and they're like, man, I haven't seen your videos in a year. What happened? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So it's really weird. But at the same time, like, YouTube is like the record industry now, the old style record industry, in that like supply is not a problem.
No,
there's more people gonna make videos than YouTube could ever hope to. Like, I mean, they've got a wealth of options, right? So they're trying to figure out like, okay, which among these options are going to best help us support our other goal, which is to sell to these advertisers airtime so that we can remain a free service to these people who are creating this stuff.
No, right? That's true.
And
Flipper Tech, yes, the exact same spot. My podcast, it's the exact same thing every single time. So it wasn't different in any way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, see, and I think David says, there's so many creators, it's watered down. I think I mean there is a lot to be said for the fact that like some people just for one reason or another, whatever it is, and I'm not saying anything good, bad, or the other, for whatever reason it is, there are some people who are just better at doing it than other people. And a
Oh,
lot of
so
times
true.
the people who are better at doing it are the people who who just have done it. To me, that's like the ultimate thing. Like I I have a theory that if you started a YouTube channel and you were into it enough to commit to putting up 2 or 3 videos a week, or some people say even 1, but I don't know that 1's enough. If you start a YouTube channel, commit to putting up 1 or 2 videos a week, 2 or 3 videos a week, and you do that for 3 years, then you will have success on YouTube. I firmly believe that's true. As long as you sort of follow, loosely the best practices that, you're not just making one video about clowns and another video about,
Right.
whatever. As long as you sort of like practice best practices and put those videos up and just be solid with it, then you'll grow. I firmly believe that. But the problem is like nobody wants to commit to that. What is it? 52, 104, 158
Yeah.
weeks. Nobody wants to commit to 158 weeks of putting up 2 videos a week
No, because
because
we live in a world now where literally people will spend 6 months trying to create, plan, organize, and make a viral something,
right,
but would not spend 6 months uploading 2 videos a week to YouTube to build an audience.
right. I mean, like, so you lived in Nashville, I lived in New York City. I mean, there's a saying about both towns, it's a 5-year town,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, if you show up in Nashville and you stay for 5 years and you're doing the work that you need to do in order to get going in Nashville as a musician, it's a 5-year town. You'll find some way to get yourself going in the right direction. Same thing
Oh
in New
yeah.
York.
I mean, it takes. I was in Nashville, had a publishing deal, doing the whole thing for 12 years before I had my first number one as a songwriter,
Right.
and 13 and a half, almost 14 years before I had my first number one as a producer.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, the first 12 years weren't any fun. I wasn't any better.
Yeah.
It just takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think YouTube is seductive because people see these people put up like one video and it gets a million views and they're like, well, I mean, that guy just did that at his house. I got a house. But
Right.
but 99.99999% of everything that happens because you're there. You showed up, right?
Totally.
And so it's one of those things that's difficult to explain and convince people of. Like, Roberto Blake, who's a friend, he says, you got to make 100 YouTube videos before you even should expect anybody to like show up to watch, because that's you learning how to make videos, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and there are different permutations of that same thing, but um, like Michael Pepper here says, since I started doing videos on every other day, I've gained at least 1 subscriber a day, and that's decent for my tiny channel. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think as long as it's really like a lot of people externalize it and say like, well, YouTube will recognize me if I do that. But really what's happening is like you're putting stock in yourself to say
Totally.
like, okay, I'm doing this. And like eventually it will turn into a thing. It might not turn into the thing that you think it will, but then again, my definition of my YouTube channel in 2013 is way different than my definition of my YouTube channel today. And actually, I don't even know if I like the definition of my YouTube channel today. I'm actively trying to figure out how to make it be more what I would want it to be.
No,
You know,
well, no, totally. And it's a series of unfortunate events, but like what we were talking about earlier, what happened to me with that video.
Mhm.
When I put out that video, I had probably 8,000 7,000 7,500 subscribers, something like that.
Right.
That video got maybe, I don't know, maybe 1,500 views, 2,000 views.
Right.
9 months later is when the guy made the reaction video. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When he made the reaction video and I found the reaction video and I went to his channel, he had 138 subscribers.
Right.
But it was his video having 138 subscribers that blew my video up and brought in those subscribers. So that's what I'm there. For YouTube to constantly tell us there's an algorithm and a formula is wrong. How can a guy with 7,000 subscribers put up a video and get 1,200 views? 9 months later, a guy with 100 subscribers puts out a reaction video to said video, and his video does better than mine.
I mean, that's the totally weird thing. Like, you know, I keep talking about having the video that did the 1 million+ views, but there was no script for that video. I didn't even make a thumbnail. Like I just like took a screen capture from the Apple event that had just happened, and I put some text. I said, I think I'm done. And that was it. It was a terrible thumbnail. It was a completely unplanned video. Like it wasn't a good video, at least to like the standards that I would apply to, you know, make a good video. But for some reason, you know, and I think ultimately, like, there's two things that happen. YouTube has the algorithm and it has this sort of process that you go through, and that's the slow and steady part of it. But then there's also this other like wild hair kind of like sometimes it clicks here, there, the other thing. You're right on time with a news event or something like that, whatever it is, and it just starts to snowball. And to me, like, if I'm going to get 1 million views, I want to get 1 million views on every video. But
Right.
I'm not at like that's a scale thing. MKBHD is going to get 2-3 million views on every video because that's the percentage of like his audience that is going to click on the video.
Right.
You know, and if the video is on a topic that other people are interested in, then it's going to go further. So I think that it all works on like different levels of scale.
But you know, I'm going to say this, and people could not. I honestly believe, in my heart of hearts, I honestly believe that people that enjoy my videos and people that enjoy your videos enjoy those videos just as much as MKBHD's viewers enjoy his. And that's the thing, is that there is a system, there's a hierarchy in YouTube thinking that, well, MKBHD's viewers care more about his videos than your viewers care about yours and mine care about mine, and they don't. Because I could my view don't even know who the guy is.
Right.
You know, it doesn't make him legitimate or less legitimate, or the people that watch my channel any less informed. It's just not what they're into. You know, right. But I do think that there is this hierarchy. I think there is this thing that YouTube thinks that because they have more subscribers, that people care more about the content they're putting up.
I think it also comes back to that advertising piece too.
Oh, like, well, totally. At that level, totally.
Yeah, I mean, if you can tell an advertiser that, like, okay, if you buy into this tier, whatever tier it is, you'll get your ad on videos of people who have X number of subscribers who get an average of X number of views, and so you get in front of X number of eyeballs, and then we'll charge you whatever crazy amount of money that is to get there.
That's very rare air up there.
Yeah,
I mean, there's maybe, I mean, I don't know, but maybe 25 people have north of 5 million subscribers. I mean, I don't know, but
I don't know either. I mean, I know, like, you know, there have been people who've been kicked out of that tier, like the Paul brothers got kicked out of that tier and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like Frank here says he knew about PHT before he knew about MKBHD.
I did as well.
And the thing is, like, I think I knew about MKBHD just because, like, I had started putting out tech videos. And, you know, after you do that for a certain amount of time, you get the tour, right?
Right.
And so like I knew who he was because I was doing the video thing. But I think that there's a hierarchy that's developing on YouTube that is a natural thing to happen. So I don't think it's like nefarious in any way. But I think that MKBHD and Unbox Therapy and people in tech space. I mean, they're like the equivalent of you know the tech world's Good Morning America, right? It's
Right.
for the widest audience, and so there's not. But then there's people like you and I think, who aren't necessarily like well scrubbed enough to sort of get in front of that audience, and or at least that's a perception. So, but for as long as I've been doing YouTube, I mean, Marquez Brownlee's been doing it for twice, if not three times as long.
Well,
So
and
it's
again, it could be the thing like we were talking about with Joe Rogan. I mean, the people
well,
there in the beginning. My daughter, my oldest daughter, is getting ready to graduate high school, go into college. In 2013, she had 200,000 subscribers on YouTube.
right.
Oh, I mean, it blows my mind. And she just dropped it because it wasn't a thing then.
Right.
It wasn't that thing. And
Right.
I told her, man, if you had stuck with it, imagine where you would be. If you had actually stuck with it.
Yeah.
And it's you couldn't. I don't know that you can do that again.
Well, I mean, think about so again, sticking in the tech space, since that's what a lot of people on this channel know. Um, think think about some of the people who are like OG YouTubers who right place, right time, grew with the platform, and now are sort of up there. I mean, Marquez Brownlee at 12 years old did not envision his life being what it is, but he grew with the platform. And Austin Evans was just a nerdy kid who loved video games, and
Right.
suddenly he's got millions of subscribers. I mean, a lot of people have asked, like, okay, could some of those like OG YouTubers now like do could they gain traction in today's YouTube versus like having grown with the platform over the course of many years? I don't know. I mean, YouTube now is a way different place than it was when they started doing their thing, but I don't know if you can really make that if you can make that comparison.
Well, no, I don't think you can. You and I've had this conversation before. I mean, when you look at, and I'll try to say this without saying being mean or naming names, but let's take like Mr. Beast, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee you that if I went and made a video tomorrow, I'm giving 100,000 people to random waitresses.
Right.
That video would pop off.
Oh yeah.
So it's not about, oh, we did this right. You know who I'm talking about. Oh, we planned this and we planned that. It's like, no, you went around and gave out $100,000. That's shit people want to see.
The interesting thing, like I happen to have had the opportunity for having a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of the Mr. Beast thing, and like I know that it's developed over time, but everything that they do on that channel is like super duper, like weeks and months in advance planned out. Now, it didn't start that way, but it started with that idea. I mean, if you can execute that idea, if you can find 50 grand and just randomly give it to somebody, then you can like continue. Like Michael says right here, it's like if you make 100 videos about 100 different things, or 100 videos about 10 different things, the 10 different things videos are going to get much more traction, whereas the 100 different things, YouTube doesn't know what to do with it. So what Mr. Beast was able to do was find a way to repeat that performance, right?
Right.
And recognize the formula. And then as he became more and more successful, bring in people, bring in a team, become much more planful, branch out the different channels, all that kind of stuff. And I saw he posted on Twitter the other day that he, in 1 month, got more than 1 billion views, which is crazy. But I mean, but he started with a good idea and then was fortunate enough to be able to scale it in such a way that it kept growing. But a
But
lot of people can't do that.
you know what I think about that though, in the music world, and you'll understand this. I think of channels like that in that space are the jingle channels. They're the little hooky channels. You know, it's not the real substance. It's not Fleetwood Mac. You know, you're getting WAP. You
Yeah.
know,
So are you saying Mr. Beast is like Maroon 5? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't even put him on that level. I would say he's, you know, I don't listen to a lot of modern pop music, but it's that gotcha thing. It's that little, you know, play on that quick little emotion. Oh, I can't believe that shock value.
Yeah.
It's a version of today's shock jock. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't believe they did that. Oh, if I wanted to do video to get 1 million views, I'd make a video tomorrow called "I wrecked my $400,000 Lamborghini."
Yeah.
And I would do a fake thumbnail. I'd go out, get it, and drive around, and then I'd go bump my car into something. And go, oh, I wrecked my. I mean, that to me is not being a content creator. That's being a snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
And look, I respect what they're doing, and Mr. Beast, they have done some amazing things. I love what regardless of whether I think I like the way he's achieving it and doing what he's doing some amazing things and helping a lot of people with what he's doing. So I applaud him for what he's doing with what he's doing. But I've always considered being a songwriter. I do not take that term lightly. I consider myself a craftsman. I don't believe you can teach someone to write a song, write a good song. I can show you, if it's an interstate, I can show you the yellow line on this side and the yellow line on that side, but the magic and genius is what happens between those two lines. And I can't teach you to do that. I believe it's a talent. You're born with it or you're not. And I look at any content creation the same way. I don't, anybody can grab an iPhone and go out and film a shock moment.
Yeah.
And people are going to react to that. But what happens and who are you when you step away from that kind of content?
Yeah.
And you go, wait a minute, I want to do something of substance here. I want to do something of value that will help people, because unless you're one of the people that he gave $10,000 to, Mr. Beast hadn't done shit for you today. You know, I mean, that's
well, unless he entertained you and made you feel a little bit better about your day or whatever. But yeah,
going, God, nobody gave me 10. I even disagree with that. I think people watch that and go, that was really cool for that guy. I mean, I guess it's entertaining to watch, but it's not my life.
You know? I mean, I think ultimately when you're looking at a Mr. Beast, it's the same thing with PewDiePie. Like, I'm going to say something ridiculous, but I do think it's true. PewDiePie is the Bob Dylan of YouTube, because Bob Dylan came into the scene, great songwriter, knew what he was doing. He found his niche in folk songwriting, but before it got too stale, he went out and got a band and pissed everybody off, right?
Right.
And then every 5 to 10 years for the next 3 decades, he changed his thing just often enough, just before everybody got sick of it, to the point where he was able to parlay it into like a 50-year career and $300 million. But
exactly.
But PewDiePie's done the same thing. I mean, he started out with gameplay, then he shifted over to he's shifted all over the place, and yet he's still been building an audience. He might not be the it guy of YouTube today, but he's still like, he's still huge.
And you know what both of those guys have in common? And this is a complete opinion. It's the genius of understanding the system and working the system, because both of them are horrible delivery vehicles.
Right.
Right? Bob Dylan should not be Bob Dylan, because he can't sing his way out of a what it's like, I would rather listen to anything than Bob Dylan sing. But singing that makes me. Same thing with PewDiePie. Horrible on. I mean, the voice is annoying. It's like, but the genius behind what he's doing, allows you to forgive the vehicle in which it's being delivered to you.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you don't put Bob Dylan as a singer in the same category as a Frank Sinatra, but you put Bob Dylan as like the whole package of Bob Dylan in the same category of the greatest artists of music, maybe of
Absolutely.
all time, right? I mean,
Oh,
he won the Nobel Prize for literature, for criminy sake. I mean,
yeah.
how many songwriters can say that? One.
One.
And so like, yeah, it's for PewDiePie as well, like it's the whole package of PewDiePie. You know, it's like primal branding, that book that people like to talk about, where it's about having a myth and having like your little like the brofist thing is like it's like a ritual, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like all of those things apply to PewDiePie, but they just apply in like the most bizarre possible way.
That's
You
true.
would never come up with a plan that would be like, okay, we're going to be the biggest channel on YouTube, and in order to do that, we're going to get this weird Swedish guy and put him in a bedroom and have him talk silly
Inequality.
for like 2 years. And I mean, it's just, yeah,
PewDiePie is the equivalent of going out and buying a VCR today.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the thing, is people watch that and go, I'm going to keep watching because there's something I'm missing here.
Yeah. Or something's going to happen.
Or some, yeah. I mean, why are millions and millions and millions of people subscribed to this channel and watching this content?
Right.
And I had to go when I first, because I didn't know about PewDiePie forever. I just didn't. And when I finally did, I learned about it through my one of my kids.
Yeah.
But when I did, I had to watch quite a few PewDiePie videos before I found something that I felt like, oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
That was really funny. And part of it is I'm not a part of the culture or his demographic.
Right. Right. I mean, it's funny because I've been interested to see, like, as he gets older, if you're making videos for 12-year-olds, like this, to me, this is like what I call the Aerosmith conundrum, right? Aerosmith never wrote a song for people their age in their entire career.
No.
Right? Like they were always writing songs for like the 16-year-old, right? And it didn't matter if they were 60 or if they were 25. They never wrote a song that was for their contemporaries, right? And
Right.
so what happens when PewDiePie, I mean, will it happen like that he can't relate to the target audience? I mean, the demographic of my channel is 25 to 35 is like my biggest the biggest bell of the curve, right? And that's, I'm glad though, because like those are the those are the people that watch YouTube, whereas like 50-year-olds 50-year-olds are not like digging the tech videos. So it's just a matter of like, can you do your thing and appeal to the audience that your thing is perfect for, while not, because people can see through a fake, right?
Well, yeah. Well, look, I think it depends on what you're doing in your scenario, in your situation. Absolutely. And I think that's for me why I have wanted to get out of talking about music stuff, because the circle or whatever that I'm in is subject to anybody that can buy a $50 interface and a $30 mic on Amazon, and now all of a sudden they're an expert because they're a producer too, and we're on the same level playing field,
right?
And we're just not. we're just not,
Right.
and that's for me, and this is a problem with me, because I'm an uppity, arrogant asshole son of a bitch 99.9% of the time. But when I talk about something and I'm doing a video about something, I'm literally, when I made the $3,400 video,
Right.
I literally was thinking in my mind, how amazing is it that we live in a day and time where you can spend $3,400 and you can have the exact same gear that just won 5 Grammys.
Right.
And 10,000 of the comments are like, well, it's too, no, I don't have $3,400. I don't have this. I don't have that. And it's like, that's not my problem.
Yeah, it's like
$3,400 is not. And see, I'm in a space where now people think that $3,000 is a lot of money.
yeah.
And it's
Well,
like, I've got cables that cost more than $3,000.
yeah,
Seriously,
and
cables.
but
You
these are
know,
also folks who didn't grow up having to pay for studio time, right?
true,
You
true.
know, I mean,
They won't know.
they've always had computers that could make almost all of the sounds they could ever want, and interfaces that, you know, are relatively cheap. I mean, even $900 for a two-channel audio, like a two-channel UAD interface is not that much for the quality that you're getting. I mean, that was the point that you were making in your video. But,
Yeah.
you know, I remember I spent like almost $20,000 on the last record that I made with my band when we were in New York. And that was studio time in a studio with 24-inch 20 a 2-inch 24 track tape that on a Neve board that used to be in Air Studios London, and then we mixed it in this boutique studio for this Japanese producer that had like the Fairchilds that were at Hitsville, like all this stuff. I mean, and so we're paying for where we are and what we're doing.
Right.
But like 2 years after I made that record, I could go out and for $3,000 get, you know, a Motu interface and a little mixer and a few mics, and you know, I'm not, and I could make my own record. You know, so that's how quick it changed. It's like from year 2000 to like 2003 to 2005, everything changed. And
Well, I think the bar, what you just said is spot on, because the bar got lowered so much to see the differences. And this is where people don't understand the difference. Can you go out and buy that Motu interface and a microphone and make a record? Yes, you can go make a record.
Yep.
You can't make a great record.
Yeah.
There's a difference. And that's what people don't understand, is they don't understand that the ability to be able to do something is not the same thing as being able to do something great.
See, and I think I totally know what you're saying, but I think also there's that talent aspect, like you said, with songwriting. Like, you can learn how to put together a song. You can learn how to, you know, make rhyming couplets and put together lyrics and all that sort of thing. You can learn the steps to the dance, but you need A, time, and B, that thing to really be able to do it at the level where people are engaged with their emotions, right? And I
Right.
mean, so Michael put up Billie Eilish as a comparison to, like, you know, the other sort of pop related stuff that's out there these days. I mean, Billie Eilish is a unicorn, right? I mean, for her to be as young as she is, to find her voice and her sound in such a way. And yes, her brother's older and he knew what he was doing as a producer and stuff like that. But still, you listen to Billie Eilish songs and you're like, I wouldn't be surprised if this person isn't like in her 30s. But she's a unicorn. She just happened, and you can't fake that. Whereas, you know, you look at Bruce Springsteen and his Nebraska record. I mean, it's like Bob Dylan and his voice. I mean, Bruce Springsteen's on a 4-track machine that's like in the recording at the wrong speed and like all this other stuff. But there's something about the songs and the performance that transcends like all the things that are wrong with it. Right.
Right.
And so you see those things sometimes. And a lot of people chase that. A lot of people look at Billie Eilish and say, I can do that. You know, a lot of people look at a Bruce Springsteen or a Bob Dylan and they recognize the component parts of it and they say, well, of course I can do that. I mean, look at them. It's just a guitar and he's singing a song and I can sing better than that. But those are the unicorns. Like,
well, they are. I mean, I'm a great guitar player, but I'm not Eric Clapton.
Right.
You know,
I mean, it's like if you set out to become a unicorn, you're going to be disappointed, right? Unless you are a unicorn. But like, I mean, that's been a lot of my problem over the years, is that I like the bar that I set for myself as like a songwriter, performer, et cetera, is like I compare myself to those people, you know, in my brain, and it's a losing battle for sure. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't want to compare myself to less, because, I just think that there are people who you can have success, and success can mean a lot of different things. Success can mean you get to a certain place where I mean, if you look at my channel, you would say, hey, Jason's got 196,000 subscribers. That's crazy, right? And I look at it and I'm like, okay, but I've been on 196,000 subscribers for 2 months now. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
mean, my reality and the reality of what other people are going to see are totally different. And I think until you get into it, until you see like the varying levels of like what quote unquote success can be, then, if you're always disappointed by not being Billie Eilish, by not being, Bruce Springsteen, or even Britney Spears, you know, Britney
Yeah.
Spears I mean, there's a lot of things that Britney Spears is not when it comes to her and her music.
Mhm.
But one of the things that she is, and is very successful at doing, is being a performer and understanding how to connect to an audience, and just like those are things that you can't fake. I
No.
mean,
One of the best examples of when talking about talent is the example of David Foster in Chicago. Now, any producer, those Chicago could have walked into that studio and they're going to play all the instruments, so it's going to sound great. So any producer could have done that. But only one producer went, I think Peter Cetera should sing this.
Yeah.
And that changes everything.
Right.
It's knowing and having the talent. And, I do think that it's possible to do a whole lot with a little.
Yeah.
But it's about who's pushing the button.
Yeah.
It's not about the button you're pushing. It's about who is pushing it.
Yeah. And I've said this about, great guitar players could pick up $100 guitar and make it sound amazing. But, another person could take lessons for 25 years and not be able to do the same thing. It's podcasting just makes the same point. Like, Michael Jackson would sound better on a $20 Amazon mic than he would on a $10,000 251. Like, yeah, Michael Jackson's another one of those unicorns. And so when people say, like, okay,
but listen, it also needs to be said, Michael Jackson would also never sing on a $20 Amazon mic.
not while Quincy Jones was in the studio.
No.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people really understand who Quincy Jones is. I don't think they understood who Quincy Jones was
No.
back then. I mean, Quincy Jones, you want to talk about a genius. This is a guy who was playing with Duke Ellington when he was like 15.
Yeah, that like, documentary is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of people, and this is actually, I'm going to turn this around. We can talk to something that's applicable to YouTubers, because this guy Harris Heller made a video about the SM7B and how the SM7B was only moderately better than $100 microphone, and his argument holds up to a certain point. But then a lot of people turn around and say, well, Michael Jackson sang all of Thriller on an SM7, so it must be a great mic because Michael Jackson has the best-selling record ever. It's like, well, that's Michael Jackson. That's not the SM7B. But the thing is, like, I try to tell people, like, okay, if you can find a way to buy an SM7B, you can find the $400 and the $150 that you need to get your cloud lifter, if you're going to use like a Focusrite interface or whatever, then you'll spend $400 once, as opposed to spending $100 6 times before you finally spend the $400.
That's right.
And I just think
you're just going to be chasing it.
Yeah, it's like, and I say that from my own personal experience, because I've done that. I've gone through, studio monitors that, can get you part of the way to the thing that you're looking for, but it's never as good. It's never as good. So if you're going to commit yourself to doing anything, it's like, part of the commitment is understanding like what the tools are. And yeah, it's fine if you can't buy that $400 mic to start out, then you learn how to make a crappy mic sound good, and then you get the $400 mic and you're like, "Oh, I'm in heaven." Right?
Exactly.
So there are ways to do it, but I would never tell somebody not to buy the better piece of equipment if they could afford to buy it. No matter what.
I know you won't. I can give you 11,000 reasons why you shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing is that there has never been, and there might be one in here tonight. It'll be the first one. I have never ran across ever in all my travels around the world in the music business, have I ever ran into an engineer or a producer or a songwriter that didn't constantly upgrade their gear.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Ever. So that's when you, and this sounds harsh to say, but when I got into it with people in the comments on my video, I'm talking about that, then my comeback, which is sounds so harsh to so many people, is then you've never done something successful enough to give you the kind of money that you would want to go out and go, wow, if I can accomplish this with this, then I'm going to go achieve this. I'm going to go get this. I want this better mic. So the next time I'm doing vocals with this artist, it's going to sound even better. There is nobody producing hits on a Focusrite Scarlett 212. In what I will consider the real music business, and I don't consider rap, hip hop, R&B. That's not real music. That's computer programming. So you can use that and do that all day long.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. You can throw like electronic stuff in there as well. A lot of times, like if the sound is not being produced by the gear itself, right? Like then a lot of times, in the hip hop world or something like that, they'll have one good mic and like an Avalon,
right?
And they'll send that through like a 1 or 2 channel. That's all they need. They only need the one mic,
No, that's it.
Everything else happens inside the box. So the way the room sounds, all that other stuff doesn't make as big a difference, right? But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a fine line. A lot of people will say, well, I can't afford a Sony A6600 and a 16 millimeter Sigma lens. I can't afford that $1,800 investment or whatever it is, right? So they'll say, all right, I can't start until I can get there, which is also wrong. Because a lot of times you just have to start. You just have to start. Now, if you start with the best thing that you could possibly get, people ask me a lot of times like, oh, what acoustic guitar should I get? And part of me is tempted to say like, well, the best $200 guitar is this.
Right.
But the thing is, like, a $200 guitar is going to make learning to play the guitar such a chore and such a huge pain in the rear end that you won't want to play guitar.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for here for a second, because I have not going to surprise you, I have a slightly different view on that.
Okay.
I am all for people everybody has to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere, right? But doesn't that also contribute to the overall arching problem that we've talked about everything just getting flooded? Because now there's not people on here making great quality content. There's just a million people making content.
Right. And
that creates a thing, and when I sit down with somebody and they're asking, and they're like, what do I need? Is like, okay, is this a passion, or are you taking this serious? If you're going to take this thing serious, today I had somebody call and they're like, hey, can I take 10 minutes of your time? We want to start a podcast. What do we need? And I'm like, well, you could start for as low as $50, but you'd be wasting your money and your time. It's going to cost, they would need 4 people. I'm like, it's going to cost you $2,600. If you want to do it right and be competitive, because here's the thing. These people cannot find a way to separate the amount of money that they want to spend to get started and the expectations that they have that it's going to create for them. They want to go spend the $200 on the acoustic guitar, but they want it to sound like a J45.
Mm-hmm.
And when they don't get that, well, I mean, it's just, then they start trying to, it's just as good. I just need something to get started. And it's like, look, when you're starting out in the day and age we live in, and this is not a popular thing to say, but it's what I believe. If you're just getting started, then I hope you're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. If you're in your channel demographic or my channel demographic, this better be something you're taking pretty fucking serious, right? And so if you're in that age demographic, it means you're making a career change. It means that you're doing something different. And I would hope that you wouldn't even consider making a lateral move unless you were willing to do something at a high enough level that it's going to produce anywhere near the expectations that you have. So when you come to me and you ask me that I want to start a studio, I'm not going to tell you to go buy $500 worth of gear. I'm going to go say, take out about 25, 30 grand. If you want to do it right, have a tracking studio, that's the entry level. Now, I'm all for people getting started and using what you got, because I know I'm big into cameras and all that stuff. And that's just start, you just use your iPhone. I'm like, no. If you want to do that to practice and learn how to video edit and all that, but if you want to jump into the stream, the minute you take it from your bedroom and your expectations and you want somebody else to like it or, God forbid, comment on it or engage with it, to me, you got to swing for the fences. To me, you got to come with a quality that can stand you apart from all these other people that are just trying or just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, podcast just made the point that, like, a lot of people use the excuse of like, well, I got to wait around until I get the right gear. And there is that fine balance. Like, if you know from day one that your goal is to play at a high level, then the best thing you could do is get the best gear that you can at that moment.
Absolutely. I would rather somebody not start and wait and save up their money and get the right gear than just get started with shitty gear they're going to wish they hadn't purchased in 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, if an 18-year-old kid came to me and said, "Hey, I want to start a studio," and I don't expect to be doing crazy stuff yet. I'm going to charge $25 an hour or whatever it is, but I just want to record people. Then, I remember when I was younger and I was starting out recording people, I'd be like, "I need new monitors. Buy me these monitors. I'll do your record." Like, because that way I'm getting like a better set of monitors than I would have had.
Absolutely.
And then I'm it doesn't matter what I'm working on, but figure out what you want, figure out what you need, and then figure out a way to get it. Because it's not, $25 an hour is not going to get you anywhere at the end of the day. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I know I couldn't tell an 18-year-old kid like, "Hey, put together $20,000," but it's for an 18-year-old kid who wants to be a professional studio owner, who wants to be an engineer. I mean, there's all kinds of experience that has to be gained, et cetera, et cetera. Then, you're talking about a 10-year plan, by the time you're 28.
Totally. No.
But,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm like you kind of said earlier, my thing is, okay, then you start, I'm not telling you to go buy a $700,000 vintage Neve console. I'm telling you to buy a $900 fucking interface. Don't sit here and, if you can't, here's my side of it too. If you can't afford a $900 interface, wait till you can.
Yeah.
Okay. Because again, it's the expectation thing. I have people tell me all the time when they ask for gear recommendations, I want it to make it sound like that record you cut. And it's like, I cut that in the A room at Blackbird. Okay, there's $10 million worth of equipment in there. There is nothing for $750 that I can tell you to go buy that's going to make it sound like that record I produced. It's impossible.
Yeah. No, I mean, and you should, like, that's when you think about that goal, you have to, like, after a while, you have to realize, like, okay, that's not really the goal. Like, what you're saying is I responded emotionally to that record. The component parts of that record are like the space that it was made in and the people who did it and all that kind of stuff. I can't recreate that for myself. Like I'm not there at that time. It's not my record. It's, but what is it about that record that spoke to you and got your emotions involved enough that you would want to be a part of that? It's not
You're
the $10,000 Elam 251.
Nope.
It's not the $700,000 Neve console. Like those are the tools that definitely help and make a huge difference and give you lots of choices and aren't going to get in your way of like having that opportunity. But it's the emotional thing that you're trying to capture. And the thing is, you're never going to get in that room until you figure out how to do that.
Well,
right?
You're 100% right. And two as well, listen, the $900 interface and the $200 interface, okay? Neither one of those is going to write the song for you.
No.
Okay? But I will tell
you
that
perform for you, not going
to perform it for you, it's not going to write it for you, but I will say this has been proven time after time after time. The $200 interface might just keep you from getting there though. Because this is a thing for me, and it's big for me, and I agree with what you said, disagree with one of the things. And that is when I'm writing and I go in my studio, if the very bottom end of the rung setup that I will have when I'm writing is an SM7B for vocals. Because when I go in and I sit down and I'm writing, I want to hear it, 47 or something like that, and it inspires me. The sound inspires me. Oh my God, that sounds good. It's big. It sounds fat. It's all around me. I can feel it. I can, and that takes me to another place. If I pop a $100 microphone into a $200 interface, it doesn't give me that sound. It doesn't inspire me. Now, that may not be now for somebody that's never done it before, maybe the $200 interface is good. It's not going to be good very long for you, but if it gets you started, then it gets you started. But for me, it's like I have that expectation. I need it to sound a certain way, and I know that there's only a certain level of gear that it's gonna give that to me.
Right. Yeah. No, and I mean, you have to have the expectations too. Like back in the day, if you wanted to demo a song and you didn't own a console and a tape machine and everything like that, but it was the mid 80s and you had a 4-track, like 4-tracks were an incredible crucible for learning how to make a sound out of nothing. You've got like some Fisher Price microphone plugged into the thing, and you're just trying to make a sound. But people who learned how to make sounds on 4-track machines, you could give them 4 SM57s and be like, make a record, and they could do it.
And they could do it
because they learned it, right? They learned the sound that was in their head. They figured out how to take that inferior equipment, make it happen. But if you gave them the choice, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, well, I love the 4-track, but I'd rather work on like the professional gear if I'm doing something that is going to go out into the world. It's a different kind of vibe. Now, so I put Sanjay's thing, little comment up here. The rest is luck, and then John chimes in with so much luck. I'm not a big believer in luck.
Yeah, me either.
Because Casey Stengel, this has been attributed to a lot of different people, but Casey Stengel, manager of the Mets, former Yankees guy, said luck is the residue of hard work. And so there might be some aspect of luck, like being in the right place at the right time. I've seen people who, living in New York, and I'm sure you've seen it in Nashville, living in New York, at a certain point, everybody is busting their ass. Everybody's talented. Everybody is getting the gigs. Everybody is like climbing the ladder.
Yep.
Some people get that person in the room that just, it's just a magical, like they heard them at the right time. And the next thing you know, off they go with the major label record deal. Some people never get that person in the room, or their performance doesn't go the way they need it to, or whatever. So there might be a little kismet, luck, whatever in that. But if you don't do the work to get to the place where you're good enough to be in that room playing at that time for those people, nobody gets there on their good looks.
No, I tell new artists when they're doing an artist development program or something like that with me, I tell all of them, look, pretend that you're out in the middle of the desert and there's a set of train tracks. Okay, success is the train. You never know which direction it's going to be coming from, which direction it's going to be going. You have no idea what time of day it's going to come by, or if it's coming by today, tomorrow, next week, next month. You don't know.
Right.
Your only job is to get up every day and go stand in the middle of the tracks and walk one way or the other. That's it. Be present when it comes.
Yeah.
That's it. And getting up every day and walking and standing and walking one way or the other, placing yourself in the middle of the tracks, make yourself undistractable. It's impossible for the train to miss you. That's not luck. That's getting up and putting yourself in a position for luck to happen.
Yeah.
And that's consistency, persistence, a willingness to sacrifice, and everything else.
So the writing program that I went to out here in Iowa is like one of the best. I mean, it is the best graduate writing program that there is. It's 30 plus Pulitzer Prize winners, MacArthur Genius Grants recipients, just Flannery O'Connor, just the list of people who went to this program over the decades is huge. They take 25 people for the fiction program every year out of about anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 applicants. Statistically harder to get into than Harvard Business, Harvard Law. And so there is an aspect of luck in the sense that you might hit the reader at the right time on that day. But the one thing that is always constant, and one of my teachers, actually he had passed away, but a lot of my teachers had studied with him. He said when he was reading people's work, he was looking for what he called a pressure behind the language, where you could feel another human being on that other side. Now
Right.
that person doing that writing, that's the quality you can't teach, right? That's that thing you can't teach. Now, this person might have gone to all the Ivy League schools, had really great writing teachers, and technically be very sound, not have a story to tell, still have that quality. Those are the people that they're looking to pick. Those people who have that pressure behind the language, right?
Right.
And so everybody who comes out to this program has the raw material to be successful as a writer at a high level. But 25 out of 25 people don't end up in a New York Times book review, right? It's probably 10% or less actually ever produce a book. And
Wow.
and the thing is, it's a combination of so many different things. Okay, so you've got the talent, you've put yourself in the right place, you've done the work. Can you do the time? Or do you have what it takes to put your ass in the seat every day and do it? So it's there might be one of those things. Can you be poor and just for a decade or more, sacrificing what success you could have monetarily, whatever? Can you do that and sort of say it's all going to pay off because I'm going to be able to create this work 10 years, 20 years down the road, right? Not a lot of people can take that math and make it work. And one of my great friends and one of the best teachers I ever had, he said to a group of these writers, he said, if you can do anything else and be happy with your life, if you can be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be a janitor, whatever. If you can do anything else with your life and be happy with that life, stop now, go do that. But if this is the only thing, then just buckle up and be ready to ride the shit train for as long as it takes.
That's
And because
so
it's like,
true.
to me, it was like, to me, I knew I was in my 30s. My daughter had just been born. I'd been doing the music thing for, since I was 15, and, traveling and touring and living in New York and doing all that stuff. And I had hit a point where the music career was not going the way I wanted it to. Stepped away from it for a little while, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to be like a normal person. I'm going to teach high school English. I'm going to do the music thing as a hobby, whatever. And next thing I knew, I'd like I applied to graduate school and I got into this program. And how did I do that? I wrote something and it took me there. So if at that really
That's
low
right.
point where I was like ready to give up, instead of just like not doing it anymore, I turned back to that, and that took me to the next place. Then I knew at that moment, this is what I do. What I do is create this stuff. So now I have to now I have to figure out a way to live the rest of my life not miserable, supporting my family the way that I need to be able to support my family, all of those things, and never sacrifice that I do this and not the other things. Because
No,
I
I mean,
worked the day job for 10 years in New York, and I hated every minute of it. It was a means to an end, but I knew I couldn't live the rest of my life that way. So I had to
well,
find a
no,
way to do the thing that I do and get paid for it. It was teaching. Now it's YouTube. Now it's,
right.
it's,
And it may be something else.
yeah.
That's the thing. I said something on my podcast when I went back. We were listening back to an edit, and I thought, man, I can't believe I said that. That was actually pretty profound. But I said, most people live an unfulfilled life because they spend their life trying to fill roles they were never meant to fill.
Right.
And it's the truth. I said to somebody the other day, if you're trying to do something,
Yeah.
and you don't know whether or not this is your thing, this is your calling, and there's this other thing in the back of your mind, if you have a plan B, most of the time, if you really want to live what most people would consider a satisfactory life, or to be happy with the life you're living, you should be doing your plan B.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because very few people have what it takes to see plan A through all of the ups and the downs and the sacrifice. That's what most people say. Oh, I'm willing to sacrifice, but you have a limit.
Yeah.
You will sacrifice up to this point.
Yeah. If it's when you get to that point, if you get to that point, whatever level of like, okay, I'm done with this shit you get to, and then you realize that there is no plan B, that's when you're like, okay, well, this is it. This is what I do. But if
That's the
there's a
trick.
plan B, and you can see a path forward, and you can be good with that, I mean, that's the idea of American exceptionalism. Like, we're all supposed to be special little flowers that bloom into something amazing, right? We all do in our own way, in our own time, in our own space, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to be a rock and roll star. But
It could mean you could be the best oil changer at Jiffy Lube that has ever changed oil.
yeah, I mean, and or you could be like the a great father to your kids, and all of those things are important. I mean, everybody wants to be a great father to their kids. You know what I mean? But it's, if you get to that moment where you're like, I don't think I can take this anymore, and then you can't think of anything else to do, then you're fucked. Like,
Yeah. No, I mean,
this is what you do. This is what you do, and you just figure it out.
yeah, I mean, every successful person that I know doesn't have a safety net. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, if they fall, they're done.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it removes the comfort level.
Yep.
of it being okay to fail.
Yep.
You know, if I fail, then okay, well, I'll fall 3 steps back, and then I'll regroup and I'll come back at it again. The ultra successful people, there's no safety net.
Right.
If it doesn't go, it doesn't go. And then it's like, okay, then we're greeting people at Walmart. You know, that's nothing wrong with that. I'll get shit.
I mean,
nothing wrong with that at all. But it's like you said, that not everybody's meant to be a rock star. Not everybody's meant to make it. Not everybody's meant to have a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers. Not everybody's meant to be a hit songwriter. And I don't care what your mom and dad told you. You cannot be whatever you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to redefine what whatever I want to be means.
Exactly.
You know, it's not a fill in the blanks question. it's a like, where does your life take you question.
That's
you know?
like making it, what does that even mean? It's like, well, first define the parameter.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? Are we talking about making it that it's got to be your dream? You've got to succeed at the thing you dream about, or can you just have a successful life and happy life and one that's fulfilled? You know.
Yeah. X-Plumber
Exactly.
says, plan A, be a unicorn. Plan B, convince others unicorns don't exist. That would be the best way to approach it. I mean, you know, my friend John was a former student of mine. And you know, he's been through medical school. He's done the doctor thing. I've never seen a life more difficult than like studying medicine, the kind of responsibility that you take on, but then it's also a very bureaucratic, weird situation where you don't always have a lot of control over what happens. It's a big deal, like, you know, and it can test you. I've seen students who've been tested. I know John's been tested. You know, like the suicide rate among doctors is really high, and it's not
Absolutely.
because they're, you know, more emotionally unstable than other groups of people. I mean, it's a really tough crucible, and it's the same way with anything that you try and do at a high level. You know, if you put yourself in that position of like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it at a high level, there has to be a certain amount of like, you know, no plan B. And sometimes the plan B has to be figured out, but it's only, like you said, in order to regroup and refocus your energy back. And for me, like, okay, I'm almost 50 years. I turned 50 years old this year. Now, when I was 15, I had one goal, and that was, I want to be a famous rock star. I want to write songs like the people who I admire, and I want to do that thing. That was my dream. And I went at it hard. I moved to the place I thought I needed to be in order to do it, and I worked my ass off. And then I was like, and then I realized, like, okay, there are things about this that actually exist that I don't want. You know, there's a lifestyle aspect to it that I don't want. You know, and so like I start working around the parameters, and I start thinking, like, what I realized is, like, I want to create things that create that emotional response in people. You know, that pressure behind the language where you reach out through time, space, whatever, and you grab somebody else's emotions, and it's a one true thing moment, right?
Mhm.
That's what I want to create. Now, would I have ever imagined that like something like YouTube would be a part of that? No. I mean, when I was making that plan, like, YouTube didn't exist, but at the same time, like, there's so much about YouTube that is very similar to what I love about those emotional moments. One thing I love about teaching is it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen every day. It doesn't happen every year. But if you have that moment where a student, you just see that light bulb click on for a student, and they
Mhm.
see what you're talking about or what book you're reading or, you know, whatever it is, and they see it in a way that they couldn't see it before. And you know at that moment that that's a refraction point for their life. And everything from there is gonna have a different cast to it because it refracts off that moment. that's what I love about teaching, and like YouTube gives you that venue as well.
Totally.
And that's why to me it's very important to be real on YouTube.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think real everywhere, and I was talking to somebody the other day. We were talking about the plan A and plan B thing. And, it was like, well, I mean, Steve, you don't have a plan B. And it's like, well, listen, I don't have a plan B. That doesn't mean I don't have an escape plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have something to fall back on that will sustain everything. However, I have taken steps to have an escape plan.
Yeah.
And I'm the thing of it is I'm applying it in real life. I mean,
Yeah.
packing up and leaving Nashville after 20 years and leaving the music business for the most part. I mean, this is my escape plan. I mean, this is what I've planned for this. I used
Right.
plan A to finance the escape plan.
Right. Yeah. I for me, like there are times. I mean, it's still early days for me. Going away from the job and just like saying, okay, I think I can do what I need to do to be the responsible person while I'm doing this. Like to be 48 years old and say, I'm going to leave this job where I'm making an okay living, and I'm going to get a better parking space every couple of years, and and it's a university system that's got great health care, blah blah blah. There are times when I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like, why why am I doing this and not still doing this and going to that job? And the God's honest truth is, like, I didn't think that I could, like, get to the highest place where I could get if I kept hedging my bets.
Mm.
And so even if like in a couple of years YouTube is like, I'm like, it'll be something else. It's like I can't not do this. And it's like you have your escape plan, but you escape from the music business in Nashville to go to California to do like other creative things that just aren't necessarily exactly that.
Right.
Right? Because you can't not do it. And that's the thing I didn't understand when I was young, is that
Mm.
it wasn't like the one, it has to be that thing, because that thing is never what you think it is.
No.
So I learned over the years that it's actually something that I can carry with me wherever I go. And as I gain experience, as I gain knowledge, as I meet new people, as I do different things, like I'm just adding to the arsenal.
Oh,
And
totally. No
and
mistake I've ever made or wrong turn I've ever made. It never leads nowhere.
right.
Right. I mean, you come back and go next time. Nope. Got off there before. I've
Yeah.
been there.
Oh
There
yeah.
is a place,
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, like, for whatever reason, I mean, I think, well, we have like genetic imperatives, like, safety, warmth, food, all those things. We have these genetic imperatives that lead us to make decisions, but I think our culture has a lot of times like overcorrected for that stuff. Like
Mhm.
there's very little encouragement of like real risk in our culture these days, which is fine. I mean, maybe that's the way it should be. But for those people who don't, I mean, you end up in this place where it's like, oh, they never told me it was this. They never told me that it was, it's not the cover of the magazine. It's not the, number one on the charts. It's not the best-selling book. They never told me that it was just this. It's doing the thing, you know?
Mm.
And once you're able to say to yourself, I'm an artist, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a creator of whatever kind it is, and you can say that and look at yourself in the mirror and believe it, that's when you are that thing. I heard somebody giving
right.
like it was I think it was like YouTube advice or whatever, and somebody was saying like, if you work at a coffee shop but you're an actor, tell people you're an actor. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, that makes sense, because like if that's what you're doing, then that's what you do.
That's right.
If at some point you decide that you're going to get off that train and be an accountant, then you're an accountant. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But it's like, it's that I always think about that "Quiet Lives of Desperation" quote.
Mhm.
Like, so many people just sitting out there with what if on their minds. And nobody gets away from that. I mean, I'll
No.
lay on my deathbed and say, "What if I did this? What if I did that?" But at least I won't say, "Well, I followed the fill in the blank uh, Mad Lib of how you're supposed to live your life."
Right.
I did the thing. And it's
Well, we don't come with an instruction manual, right?
no,
I mean, if we all knew exactly how to assemble ourselves and put ourselves together, we would definitely put ourselves together in the finest form anybody's ever seen. We piecemeal ourselves together with our experiences, and we
yeah,
don't we can head off in one direction, but it's never a straight line,
right,
ever, for
right,
anybody under any circumstances, anytime, anywhere.
yeah,
It's I I just realized recently that even though I've had an enormous amount of success in it, I don't think that my plot in life was supposed to be a songwriter and record producer. I really
right,
don't. I don't think that was my calling. I don't think that's what I should have spent 20 something years doing, but it's where I ended up. I mean,
yeah, 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 and it's most people would not imagine that would be kind of like the thought process, because they see the result and they're like, well, one of the chosen, right? But at the same time, like there's there are so many different nuances to that whole deal. you know I mean, you got to that place and you had that experience, and it's now taking you to someplace else that may or may not be the ultimate destination.
no, not even close. I say this all the time. I swear to God. And it was equally exciting and equally depressing at the same time.
Yeah,
But I remember being at the height of every pinnacle that I've ever accomplished, whether it's number one songs, platinum albums, making shit tons of money, having way too many cars. Each one of those was something that I defined success as. That
right.
if I had the mansion, I was successful. If I had all the cars, I was successful. If I had on the charts and I had the platinum records, that was success. Every single time I accomplished each one of those things, when I got there, it just revealed the peak of another mountain.
Yep,
And it's
yep,
like, okay, well, now I got to go see what the top of that one looks like. And I get to the top of that one. Nope, there's another one over there I got to go see. And you don't see those things on the way up.
no,
We look up there and we go, that's the top of the mountain. What we don't realize is there are 500 million mountains behind them. You just can't see
right,
them because of the one you're climbing.
yeah,
And it's I find when somebody tells me they're satisfied, I feel sorry for them.
yeah.
I,
I
how
yeah,
can you now? I'm not counting like family things like that. Absolutely,
yeah,
but if you're any kind of a creative or whatever, and you ever find yourself where you're satisfied, you need to shake things up because
yeah,
by definition, you cannot be a creative and be satisfied.
yeah. I mean, I've I've had a lot of people recently and otherwise tell me like, Jason, you're too hard on yourself. You should give yourself a little bit of a break. You're doing great. And on one hand, I know that that's good advice because I generally like can't separate like the good from the bad at a certain place. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like I know what the potential is, or at least I sense what the potential is. So I'm continuing to like put that pressure on myself. The only time it becomes a problem is when that amount of pressure like keeps me from actually being able to excel. And so, you know, it's like, and that's been a problem for me all the time. Like when I drank, drinking was like the off switch. I could like I could go to dinner, grab a couple of beers, hang out, games on. I don't have to be a creative guy now. I can be a guy that hangs out at the bar and watches this game and talks to these people. The only problem is like I couldn't be the guy who had like 2 beers and did that.
Right.
So that was my off switch though. Now, even 10 years later, I don't have an off switch. I and that's the thing I've got to work on. The time where I give myself a little bit of grace to sort of chill out and be and not be nose to the grindstone. Because I, you know, a lot of times, I mean, I'll end up watching like 3 or 4 hours of YouTube videos an evening because I've been working all day on doing this stuff, and then I'll just like plop down in the easy chair and like watch a bunch of TV, and then I'll just feel like shit about it. And
No, I
I'll
do
think
the
about all
same
the
thing.
things that I could have been doing. I could have been
Yep.
playing guitar. I could have been doing this. It could have been, but you know, my brain is fried, and yet I'm still beating myself up about it. So I know that there's that, but yeah, there's nobody who does this stuff and gets better at it and grows and continues to do it that ever says like that's the best I'm going to do. You know, I mean, there
I hope not.
I've known so many writers who like you know from the writing world, you would look at the success that they had, the sort of accolades, whatever, and you'd be like, wow, that's a lot. You know, you should, and you would think like, oh, they must be feeling pretty good about themselves. Truth of the matter is, they're fucking basket cases, like just
And still
driving themselves,
chasing something,
yeah, still
right?
driving themselves crazy
Right.
to get the thing. It's not that they didn't do it well. It's just that, you know, like you said, every time you learn something new, every time you grow to a certain point, you come to be able to recognize a certain thing, and you learn to internalize that. That just shows you the thing that you didn't see before that you were getting wrong.
That's
Like
right.
I I've talked to people a lot about, you know, how when I was younger and I read books, I always understood there was like this different level of like prose writing. I never understood what it was comprised of. I just intuited that it was there. When I got to this school and I put up what I'd been writing to get there to be workshopped, I got an hour and 45 minutes of total evisceration. Like teacher, other students, just like this sentence, preposition, noun, verb form, blah, 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 all these things. And I sat there and I listened to it and I looked at what they were saying and I was like, they are absolutely right. All of this stuff is stuff that I could not see. I could not see this. And now they're sitting here showing it to me and I'm like, oh, so that's the thing I couldn't see before.
Right.
So then you start to internalize all that stuff that they're telling you, and you're like, you know, and it works the same way with videos. You know, there's a reason why MKBHD started out on a webcam in his parents' dining room and now has, you know, $100,000 camera. You know, he slowly over time saw the differences, the slight differences between this thing and that thing. And then like he just grew to the point where that was the level where he was working, you
Right.
know? And so like, is it necessary to have a $75,000 red camera with a $50,000 lens on it to make a YouTube video? No.
Nope.
But if you're the creative person who can use that camera and use that lens and see that difference and appreciate it, then I who am I to say, you know?
Right.
Because
No, I
that's
mean, I feel the same way. I mean, it's plus I think in his case in particular, I think a little bit of unobtainium is
yeah,
the sprinkle, the magic that he sprinkles across his channel.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that was the whole Team Crispy thing back in the day, like 4 or 5 years ago. Those guys had all risen to a level where they could afford to go out and get the magic cameras,
Right.
and 4K was relatively new, and they could ratchet up that level of that visual level to a place where most people on YouTube had never like considered doing it, and that really differentiated themselves. So so now, they're all moving in different directions. Like Marquez is up here doing his thing on a high level, but he's not doing what he did 5 years ago. Jonathan Morrison's focused on music now because that was his first thing. Like people are moving, they're still changing, they're still growing in different directions. But yeah, I mean, the I like the word unobtainium. That thing that you can't see it, but you know that it's there.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the same like MKBHD's videos. Same thing as like reading a great novel. You're like you're just sort of like gobsmacked by how well it's done.
Yes.
You don't understand exactly what went into it, but you're like, man, that's slick, and I'm lost in it, and I'm totally buying in. And if you're a creative person and you get that, then you're like, okay, get on the bike.
Yeah, that's right. Clock in.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for 2 hours. We didn't talk about any of the things that we were going to talk about.
Lord,
Two and
no,
a
we
half
didn't.
hours. 2.5 hours. Didn't talk about any of the things that we were supposed to talk about, which is, fine. Apple's going to have an event. They're going to release some products.
Clickbaiting titles.
Yeah, I know. An hour ago, somebody was like, "Have they talked about this stuff yet?" No.
Let me catch everybody up. Apple's having an event. They're going to release something else that's going to be expensive. End of story. Guess what? Highlight next year. There'll be an update to the one they did this year. Yeah. There's your tech news for the day.
Probably an iPad. Probably, maybe some iMacs. Probably not AirTags. How's that? AirTags are never coming out, people. Let's just
let it go.
Yeah. And then in LG, and who else is in this thing with them? LG and Magna are very near signing a deal for Apple Car production. I don't know what that means, because I don't know what Magna is, and I guess LG. I'll just show this word here. LG and Magna, they're building the LG Magna E powertrain for the Apple Car.
Oh my God!
And
is that why they got out of cell phones?
Oh,
hold on just a second. My pizza's here. Hold on. Be right back.
I haven't seen anybody dropping any super chats tonight, so this was not a super chat night, though. This was a fly on the wall kind of night. But this has been good. Ace is in the honeymoon phase of his YouTube channel. Man, enjoy it. I mean, there are different honeymoon phases. You go through different periods. That is the best thing about the new anything, is it makes the previous one better or cheaper, I guess. Oh, podcasts, you didn't actually have to give me any kind of super chat. Yeah, podcast is threw in $10 to get a slice of your pizza.
Hey, you're welcome to it. Orange County, California. Head this way. You're not too far.
Man, I tell you what, I feel the California draw. Like I'm 15 Iowa winters. I'm ready.
I mean, it's dangerous, dude. I mean, I will say this: best decision period ever in my life. But it's a thing. I bought 2 motorcycles in the last 2 months. I mean, it's a new lifestyle. It's a completely new thing, but I love it. Love it.
Yeah, my wife has a career out here that she loves. She works in nonprofit. She loves doing what she's doing. She makes more money than me at this point, so I can't really complain. But one of these days, yeah, it's like I just saw today. I posted it on Twitter that the state of West Virginia is offering people $12,000, no strings attached, plus free admission to all the state parks and all the attractions that West Virginia has to move there to work virtually. $12,000, no tax, no nothing.
Wouldn't be so bad if you didn't have to live in West Virginia.
Well, I mean, there is that. But
take me home, country roads.
Having lived there the first 20 years of my life, like it is. I mean, it's a great place.
It is beautiful. It's a beautiful place. It really is beautiful.
It is its own weird enigma. Like if you grew up in West Virginia, you never actually leave. Like you go other places, but some part of like some significant part of you is still kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
And yeah, part of me thinks like, get that few acres of land up in the woods, build that little cabin. Gotta have high speed. I gotta wait until Elon Musk gets his like, what is it, Stargazer or whatever, high speed satellite internet going on. I can't live in the woods without high speed internet. Yeah, I can't live in the woods without high speed internet. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool though. There's a guy that worked it's a tech company and I can't think of it now, but he and his wife both graduated from Marshall University, which is down the southern part of the state. They put up $25 million to fund this initiative.
Wow.
So they said they gave Starlink. Yeah, Starlink is what I was talking about. But yeah, they gave the state of West Virginia $25 million to offer up this incentive for people to move there. Now, and as a West Virginian, like I think West Virginia is the oldest, fattest state in, thank God for Mississippi. Otherwise, we'd be the oldest, fattest everything in the country. Right. But like that, there's been a lot of brain drain because there just hasn't been a ton of opportunity. So at least somebody's seeing the potential in a place like West Virginia, cheaper living. If you don't have to be someplace to do your work, a beautiful place to live, bringing in new and different kinds of people to reinvigorate the populace. I mean, it's not an easy place to live. I will tell you that. I mean, yeah, it's a place where people are not afraid to tell you exactly what a fucking dumbass you are.
Yeah.
On just about any subject. Driving Ford pickups.
Yep.
Whatever politics you believe in, like they will tell you. My dad was a Chevy guy his whole life, man. He he hated Ford so bad. You know what Ford's an acronym for?
Flying on the road dead.
Found on road dead.
Found on road dead. Yeah.
You know what Bose is? You know what Bose is an acronym for?
No, what?
Buy other sound equipment.
Nice. I like that. I do like that.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of acronyms out there that are good. Anyway, we should shut this down so Steve can eat his pizza and
yay.
I can like, I don't know, watch some YouTube videos.
YouTube. I mean, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm about to go down there, get a couple slices and see what I've missed. Go search for all the videos I really care about because YouTube won't show them to me.
Yeah. See, it's weird. The way that I watch YouTube is like, I almost never search for anything. I graze the homepage until I find something that I want to watch.
I go straight to my subscriptions.
See, that's the thing. Like, I never go to my subscription page. It's weird.
You're the reason. Okay, then you're the majority. You're the problem, Jason. You are the problem.
I know. I realize that. I call it's market research. That's what I call it. I'm just trying to get inside the head of my potential viewer.
Trying to understand it.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for hanging out tonight. This was super fun. Different than what we've done before, but man, I love these kinds of conversations. And I'm glad to see that some people had gotten some stuff out of it, enjoyed it. Steve, thank you for being here as
Well, thanks
always.
for having me, buddy.
Always a pleasure. Steve and I could like talk the paint off a wall together, I think, if
Yes,
we
we
were
could.
careful. So anyway, we will talk to you guys later. I'll be back. I'm back on Friday for another morning live stream to get those folks over in the other parts of the world in on it. But otherwise, thank you so much for being here. Once again, my name is Jason. Steve Freeman guest tonight. Go check out the Steve Freeman Podcast. TheSteveFreeman.com is where you can find all the rest of the Steve stuff. And until the next time, we are